Hey, CW, do I sound different?
You sound like you have a different mask than last time.
Huh, let's see.
How many masks do you have?
You know, I've been going crazy with masks. Let's see if it's better with this one. This one is brighter.
That looks like a buff. Like if you're on Survivor, that's what they wear on Survivor.
It's kind of like the Coachella.
Oh,
yeah, I guess
okay. I haven't been to Coachella for many reasons. One, there's too many people.
Too much dust, and that's what they're the
Not
dust
enough
scarves.
rock bands anymore.
And plus, you can't go anyway.
Well, right, because they're not having it, and then we'd all be too close.
Yeah, so this one actually sounds better.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
I'm glad. So,
welcome to Rock and Roll Confessional.
Oh, I thought you were going to say rock and roll quarantine.
Rock and Roll Quarantine. I like that.
Rock and roll quarantine. Gonna come clean on the quarantine.
I like it.
All
Here we go.
We got another episode of Rock and Roll Confessional. I'm Rita Wout.
I am the only CW in the room, CW West.
That's right. He is. This show, we're talking with one of the original band members of X, John Doe. X has a new album out titled Alphabetland. It's really good, people.
Very good.
And John spends an hour talking with us about the album and other good stuff.
I actually had a really good time talking to him. I was kind of nervous because I'm thinking, oh, God, he's a punk. He's going to be, big attitude and stuff. He was so cool and down to earth and just like really mellow and like whatever. He went with it. So if you like what you hear and you listen to us on iTunes, please subscribe to us, rate us, and write a review. We appreciate any support to help us grow. We always read the reviews and pick a nice one to share. This show's review is from Kauai Sun.
Ooh.
I'm assuming they probably live in Kauai, or they just have a thing for Kauai. Great interviews! This is an excellent podcast, a must-listen for any classic rock fan. Always great to hear Rita's voice.
Oh, well, thank you. That's so sweet.
Yeah, that's sweet for you.
They never say that about you, do they?
No, because I suck.
But no, you didn't. You didn't spend your life talking on the radio. People are kind of used to my voice.
They're very used to you. And you are great, so go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We are sending big virus-free hugs to Patreon supporters. Thanks to all of our rock stars, roadies, groupies for all of your support. One of the perks of being a Patreon supporter is that you have the opportunity to submit questions to our upcoming guests. You'll hear a few in today's episode. Go now to our website, rockandrollconfessional.rocks, and click on support to find out how you can help keep us alive. And CW, thank you so much for all of your hard work of building the website, building this podcast, doing a tremendous job. Thank you so much.
It's really easy, kids. Go ahead. Try it yourself. See how long it takes you. And don't use your own children, because I couldn't do that.
Yeah, that's right.
I didn't have any, so that's one reason. This episode, we are speaking with one of the founding members of the band X, Mr. John Doe. X has a new album titled Alphabetland. He tells us stories about some of the songs from the new album, working with the Doors founder Ray Manzerek before he passed away, and being in one of the most famous punk bands of all time. John tells us about growing up in Baltimore, his story of being pulled over by the Los Angeles Police Department, and what he's been doing during the quarantine.
Both of you guys had a lot in common of what you're doing in the quarantine.
Fixing our houses.
Yes, inside and out.
Yeah. Anyway, enjoy this episode with John Doe.
Don't sweat it.
Check 1, 2. Hello.
Hold on,
I can hear you.
He can hear us fine.
I know, I'm trying to get my little buttons down here.
Get your little buttons down there, will you?
Gotta shut this door.
And get his while you're at it, too.
Hi, John.
Hello. Hey, CW. Hey, Rita.
How are you?
I'm doing okay.
Good.
You
good
hanging in there?
It's been trying times, but, I expect to get a lot of philosophy from you today.
Oh, I'm not going to fix nothing.
At least you're going to give me things to think about.
You're still trying, aren't you?
Sometime.
Through the music, at least?
Of course.
You may hear a little bit of echo because we're 6 feet apart and 6 feet away from you, so you can see us.
Yes.
And we're wearing masks.
Oh, wait a minute. You are wearing masks. Look at you. No, I'm kidding. I like your big tongue. Yeah.
At least hers is rock and roll.
Well, but yours is black, so.
Yeah, so I look more like a hoodlum, or maybe like a punk. I don't know.
I got this one too. That's skulls and stuff.
Oh, you got skulls? You're gonna have to get close.
You got a double thing.
Yeah. Hey.
Yeah, I'm just in my office, so I don't need to wear a damn mask. But I will. But I do.
If you want to put one on now, just to feel like you're part of the gang, that's cool.
Yeah. Well, it's a pleasure to see you, John Doe. I had the pleasure of interviewing you, many years ago. It was probably when the first X album came out. I was at a station called KEZY in Anaheim. And, we played Los Angeles, so you guys were kind enough to come down. And all I remember really from that interview a lot was just how many salespeople had to come in and gawk at you guys. It was like, wow, these are real punks, man. You know? It's weird.
So this is what they look like. Ooh.
Yeah. Well, we call this Rock and Roll Confessional, and I know that you've written a lot and acted a lot and done a lot of different things, but we're wondering if there's anything that you would like to confess now.
Just going right for the jugular.
You know.
I would like to... I would like to confess my undying love for all of my band members.
Aww.
And that's why we're still together.
Aww.
And I would like to confess that I'm not having a horrible time in this quarantine, but I'm also very ready to get back to work. So I know that's probably not a big surprise, but I'm confessing that.
I think that's something that's typical with a lot of musicians and artists is that they don't mind the isolation because that's where they get a lot of their creativity. They kind of grew up that way, and it just makes it okay sometimes. They adapt to it better, I think.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, it depends on how much they enjoy performing and how much of a ham they are. I'm one of the more hammy types of our band, I think. I do really love performing. And so that's hard. And also, I'm a little bit scared, a little bit concerned about having a career.
Are you starting a career now? Are you thinking of one?
You know, Facebook Live only goes so far. And I've done one of those, and it was good. And I actually did pretty well making money and stuff. But I don't want to do that. And there are a lot of friends of mine, musicians, who rely on a weekly gig, and that sucks because those weekly gigs aren't there. And I'm still hopeful that late August and early September our tour is still going to happen. So sometimes it gives us pause. And
you've got to take into account a lot of these clubs are struggling by not having anything. You look at like the Troubadour, who's had to go and do a fundraiser to hopefully keep their doors open when all of this does end. Yeah, well, there's a new internet organization called Save Our Stages, which seems to be trying to rally some support. And, it is evolution. And, there's always something coming along to challenge the status quo. And, I sure hope that people can hold out. And, the weirdest thing is that I think it's really shining a light on inequity because, and I don't want to get too, deep in the political side, but, because that's not my job. My job is to entertain people. My job is to talk about music and try to see something from the beyond that maybe somebody else hasn't seen. But having said that, it's like there's all these people that I would have to put myself in the same class as them, who are able to just order things and have them delivered. I don't. I go to the grocery store and, I keep safe distance, and I go to the hardware store if I need something fixed. But it's kind of this ruling class that is having people shop for their groceries and having them do this and do that and do this and having their kids taught online. And I don't say that it's a master plan. It's not part of the New World Order or any of that bullshit. But there is something that is going on where there's a service community and then there's a consumer community. And that is really getting some light shined on it right now. And I think that's something we got to answer. Yeah. Well, I mean, you kind of talk about, not to get, again, political, but your song from the new album, Alphabetland, Water and Wine, and it kind of goes back to that same thing of the haves and the have-nots. That's true. Exene, I'm not sure when Exene wrote those lyrics. She gave them to me, and I just seen that band Shannon and the Clams. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but I saw them a couple times up in the Bay Area, and they're just great. And they have this kind of surf rock
element to their music. And we have too at times. So I connected with them on that level, and I went to see them, and that music, that bass line came out, which is a pretty simple bass line. Exene had those words, and it's a question people have been asking, like who gets water, who gets wine, and it's like, I don't know, how infuriating is it when you go to the airport and they say boarding double, triple, platinum, ruby, and it's like this access stuff is just crap, man. I don't know. I'm not missing going to the airport all the time. I was going to the airport probably 6 or 7 times a month.
Oh, wow.
I don't miss that, but I wouldn't mind doing it now. I tell you what.
Except for the flying part. I don't know how safe. Rita and I were just talking about that. It's like, okay, maybe going to the airport's easy, but I'm like, I don't know if I want to be in that cabin with that recycled air, because if one person's got it, it seems like everybody's going to get it.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We also did a video of that song, which people can look up online, Water and Wine. And we did it with our old friend Bill Morgan from the Unheard Music movie, and used some footage that we filmed of us lip syncing the song, like the last day that we were all together in the studio. I think it was March 12th.
Wow.
Yeah. Right before Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
And then Bill got all this crazy footage from an old movie called Ivan the Terrible, and I think it's a Russian movie from the silent movie days. And they're pouring big baskets of gold coins on somebody's head, and then giant goblets of, and pitchers of wine. It's awesome.
Yeah, it is.
Really
I've seen it, and it's really interesting.
Pretty fun.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot that we want to talk about the new album, and then, like CW said, talk about other things. I think it was right around this time that you folks were supposed to be doing the 40th anniversary of X Los Angeles at the Wiltern, weren't you?
Yeah, actually, it was the same week that we released the record. The gig was on April 26th, and Cracker was going to play with us. Wow. It's going to be a good time. But when Fat Possum called us up and said, "Look, we don't know when the pressing plant's going to be back at full steam, and we don't know about the printing and all this kind of stuff, because we were scheduled to put it out in September," they said, "Let's put it out. It's going to be April 23rd." We said, "Sure, let's get it on." And it went on to Bandcamp, and now it's on streaming service and stuff like that. But yeah, it would have been fun.
Well, I'm sure you'll redo it when it comes time.
Yeah.
Maybe the 45th anniversary or
no, Rita.
41st, man.
No.
X almost seemed to have a mission, and you stand as one of the great all-time punk bands. I hate to label bands as punk, but let's just say a rock band. One of the,
you can say punk rock.
Yeah, one of the great punk rock bands. What do you feel has changed most with the business? I mean, obviously everything, but just, your thoughts on like, 40 years ago and now. Is it easier? Is it better? What do you like about it better? What do you hate about it?
Yeah. Certain things are easier. Like you can release, anybody can put something on Bandcamp. Anybody can sell something on Amazon, which I don't necessarily like. And so instead of having to fight against getting heard by the public because record companies or publicists or magazines or radio stations don't want to play you or give you any attention, now you've just got to try like hell to rise above the static, because there's so much going on. So a lot of it's the same. And I believe if you're good, you're eventually going to get some sort of an audience. I believe that, not the cream rises to the top, but the cream will get some sort of an audience. I've just seen it so many times. There are plenty of people that don't get what they deserve. But I didn't shed one tear when the record business went to hell in a handbasket, because they brought it on themselves.
True. When
Napster came in or any of the file sharing or streaming or any of that kind of stuff, they buried their heads in the sand and they all went down. And it's like, oh, too bad. you're just like a bloated, horrible thing that were bloated and horrible for years and years and years. And but at the same time, so that's fine. At the same time, streaming services pay writers and, they pay them 1/100th of a cent per play. So they're getting all this content for nothing.
Yeah.
And then there was some sort of governmental judgment against them where they had to pay more. And they went back to court. They said they appealed the decision because they, sure, they're going to spend money, but they're also making money. So, yeah, songwriters don't have an easy time. But, if you want to make money, be a banker or, lawyer or something. If you want to,
salesman.
On the other hand, if you want to change people's lives or you want to give people something to be hopeful for, be an artist.
Was that one of the things that, as a child or as a youngster, that you set out to do, or that you dreamed of doing?
Maybe as a teenager, sure. Because I'm of an age where, like, I was in grade school when the Beatles and Rolling Stones happened, and I was in high school, junior high, when psychedelic music hit, and so meeting and working with Ray Manzerek just completely blew my mind. It's like, what? You're a rock god. You can't mess her. But it was a nice validation.
Let's talk about that. I mean, I know you guys were big fans of the Doors in the first place, but how is it that Ray wound up producing so many of your records?
Well, I would just say that Exene and I are fans of the Doors.
Okay. No, Billy and DJ?
They recognized him and they liked Ray. Because Ray was a great producer, but he saw us at the Whiskey. We were already playing Soul Kitchen, but he didn't recognize it. It was his wife, Dorothy, who tapped him on the sholdder and said, "Hey, they're playing your song." And he went like, "Well, they are?"
Well, it is a little different version.
Just a little bit. But he was attracted to the lyrics. He was attracted to the scene because he saw that there was, there wasn't much separation between the audience and the band. I mean, when we weren't on stage, we were like watching our friends on stage, so it was a revolving door of audience and performer. Yeah, it was great. Ray was a great producer. He didn't try to reinvent the wheel. He got good performances and was really encouraging. And that's what you need for a producer.
And what an amazing mentor he must have been.
Yeah, he was. He was a bit of a father figure to Exene and me, for sure.
And it comes full circle around with the new album because Robbie Krieger's on one of your tracks. Yes. Yeah, that was really a happy accident. He left a rambling message on my phone because, Exene and Robbie and John Densmore and I have kind of stayed in touch. After Ray's funeral and them getting some awards, the Doors got some on tributes and things like that. So they asked Exene and I to come and sing a song or two, which is, that's pretty dreamy. And so Robbie left this long message on my phone and I called him back and said, "Look, you got the wrong guy. I hope you figured out which John you were trying to call." And he goes, "Oh, I'm sorry." So we were just talking about what we're doing, and he's talking about his painting, and he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, we're finishing up an X record." And he goes, "Well, what if I came down and played some slide?" And I thought that was a great idea. And with this track that Exene had just recorded towards the end of our session, I immediately thought of that American Prayer record that they did posthumously with Jim Morrison's poetry, and it all worked out. It's pretty cool. That's kind of a really quirky song, All the Time in the World. Yeah. But I love it. I love that song. Well, it's very timely in that, and so are a few of the different songs, like you were saying with Water and Wine and Goodbye Year. But I'm not sure exactly. I got to find out when Exene wrote that. I think it was last year sometime. And it's true. You become more grateful, and at the same time, you're kind of wistful about not not having as much time in the world as you thought you did. And so you just got to get it when you can. You got to grab what you can when you can. That was one thing I noticed about the record and reading the lyrics and stuff. And it's like, wow, this was almost made for the pandemic in a sense. Yeah. Well, yeah. But then that's X music, and you're always, know. I mean,
a lot of our lyrics, and I guess the music reflects it, is about things being on the edge, about things being sort of in crisis, or it's got some friction, some juiciness to it, like there's something going on. The first record we had, Los Angeles, which was about a character becoming racist, or The World's a Mess, It's in My Kiss, about what's dividing and uniting people, and then on More Fun in the New World, there's I Must Not Think Bad Thoughts, which is also kind of about a world in flux. So they're not unique, but I will say when something important happens in the world or in your life, like someone close to you passes away, you get a relationship comes to an end, you're listening to the radio and you're thinking, oh my God, that song, I can relate to it so much.
Yeah.
And it's because of what you're going through. So we are benefiting a little bit from the times.
Yeah. Tell us about Free, because it seems like it's a song about kind of empowering women. And I'm wondering, is that something that Exene wrote?
No, actually, I wrote most of the words to that. And
okay.
I dedicate it to all my sisters and people I've worked with. And it's still just one of those crimes that is unbelievable to me, that you get paid less if you're a woman, that people talk over you, or they steal your ideas and then say it louder, and then everybody pats the white guy on the back, and it's just terrible. But maybe I was hoping that some young female band would pick it up and do a version of it, but it was hard. It was hard to get the right amount of tension in it. I had to sing it a bunch of different times, different ways, so that it came out. And we changed a bunch of chords and in the verse part to make it simpler. And DJ came up with that really cool drum beat, which also was at the beginning. And on the verses, it's very kind of unsettling. So I appreciate your attention.
But maybe that's how the women feel, very unsettled.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's something that we all have to try to confront, and maybe that's the good thing about this quarantine is that people are having a time to look inside. I hope.
I do too.
I think it's it doesn't matter if you're male or female or non-gender.
Or race.
Or race. Yeah, these are just these are trying times. Just the idea of I have several black friends that were when the face mask thing first came out, and they go, do you know how much trouble this is going to be for me? I can't walk into a bank with this mask. Yes. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I know.
It's the world, as much as I think that we had these quixotic notions of, we're going to change it, we're going to make it better. I think we did some improvements, but I still think there's a lot to be done.
Man.
If we go political, Jesus. I mean, have you ever lived through such a time?
Oh, hell no.
It is like 9/11, I think, was one of the biggest things that our generation went through. And,
Sure.
we adapted, we changed, we got used to it. New York City was extremely resilient and their people are awesome. But this is affecting, all of us and just really ground us to a halt. So,
well, the thing is, that's one of the reasons we felt it was the right choice to put it out, because the songs are pretty upbeat, even though they've got some serious content. I was glad. And to be honest, we didn't really know what kind of a record we were making. It was like, yeah, that's a cool song. Yeah, that's cool. Let's do that. Okay, we got to work on that. Let's try to keep in mind what we're good at and things like that. It wasn't until I got the SoundCloud file and listened to the thing beginning to end that I thought, holy shit, we did good.
Yeah.
Did really good.
Really good.
You don't really know, and I've heard a lot from friends and family and stuff. It's like, it was a good thing to listen to. And I'm happy for that. And, I just want people to enjoy whatever they got, whether it's their home repairs. I mean, come on. What home repairs have you guys done?
Painted the house inside and out. Yeah.
Really?
Sealed the stone outside the pathway on my knees and hands and knees, sealed it.
Wow.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot at the house. So
now come on, you painted the outside of your house?
Like the trim, not the entire house, but trim and patching and, fixing all the earthquake, shaking when the beams start moving and you're looking up going, look at all the cracks.
Yeah.
So going through and doing that. Well, what about you? You said you've been to the hardware store a bunch of times.
I have. Yeah. Well, I actually got a half a ton or 3/4 of a ton of sort of flagstone. It's limestone out here in Texas.
Uh-huh.
I got that delivered and put a walkway between the back door and where the herb garden and compost is.
Wow.
Nice. See?
Yeah.
Can you guys come over? I got some things I need done at the house.
Yeah. And we were really lucky. A friend of ours who's a handyman made a screened-in porch for us, and very humble, small. We live in a very small 50s house here in Austin, and I'm telling you what, it's like we're just on the verge of mosquito season. So we're like, take that, mosquitoes. We're in our screened-in porch, man.
Speaking of moving, we have a Patreon question from a listener that wanted to ask you this.
What's his name?
Stuart.
Oh, good.
And Stuart wants to know why you moved from California to Austin.
Several reasons. One of which I could buy a house. We lived up in the Bay Area, and I really liked it, but it was kind of moist and cold, to be honest. And I couldn't really buy a house there unless I wanted to get mortgaged up to my eyebrows. And we have a lot of friends that live here. And also my partner is from Texas. So all those things together, I'm in Texas, man.
There's a great music scene in Austin, so I'm sure that you're keeping busy with that. Cool. A lot of great musicians live there, the great artistic vibe. Now, your partner's, she's an artist also, isn't she?
Yes, she is. She does clothing and collage, and she has a great podcast called Beyond and Back.
Oh, very good. We'll have to check that out.
Where she talks to artists about creativity, and she's had a couple seasons. It's been 10 shows a season, and talked to people like Billie Joe Armstrong and Amy Mann and Allison Anders and all kinds of cool people.
That's awesome. Stuart also has another question. He also wants to want your opinion on why you think the early punk scene in LA didn't get the same press or respect that the New York or UK punk scenes got.
Oh, I don't know. Probably because the publications at that point were just over this whole punk rock thing. And they, it didn't really, because of a lot of prejudice, I think, it didn't really get the traction or the impact that they needed to continue covering it. Yeah, it's like, oh, that old thing, and New York had great bands, but a lot of revisionist history goes on nowadays.
Exactly.
Because the Ramones, in 1980, the Ramones were not doing great. They were doing okay, but they weren't embraced by the masses. It wasn't until Green Day, until punk rock really, really took off, or people understood that it was like financially viable and stuff like that.
It's interesting for a music genre to have no rules that wound up having a lot of rules.
Yeah,
True.
well, stuff happens.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Let's go to another Patreon question. This one is from Connie. She missed the earliest days of X in LA, but she would love to know what performances, bands, or venues from the same time period still stand out after all this time. And when you were in X, before you made it, what was the band that you would drop everything for to go see?
Oh, God. The Big Boys from Austin, Texas, or the Avengers from San Francisco. Drop everything to go see the Screamers. But I would say a venue and a band would probably be the Brat at Vex out in East LA. Or Top Jimmy at the Cafe de Grand, which used to be called the China Club.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know, it was going out every night you could, going to see the Weirdos at the Mask. I remember that vividly.
God,
it was just ungodly loud, and nobody gave a shit because it was really fun. Yeah.
Another Patreon question's from Amy, and she wants to know, have you always considered X to be a punk band? You've had so much more musicality than other punk bands of the time.
Well, that's hard to say. I mean, we tried not to let our musicianship and expertise get in the way of our heart and just, simplicity, primitive economy. And some people couldn't make that transition. I mean, Billy played with Gene Vincent and played with Etta James, but he wanted stuff to be from his gut. He wanted to be playing from his pelvis, not from his brain. And, at the beginning, punk rock was kind of a badge of honor because it meant you were part of the future, not part of the past.
Right.
But then it became, a liability because radio stations and, clubs wouldn't book you because you were weird and dangerous and you were part of that punk rock world. And oh my God, what's going to happen? They're going to break something. And they were probably right. But
somebody or something.
Yeah, somebody or something was going to get broken. So, yeah, I mean, at the same time, there are lots of different musical styles that went into punk rock. I mean, look at the New York scene. You had the Ramones and Blondie and Talking Heads and Heartbreakers and Richard Hell, and they were all pretty unique, but they were all considered punk rock because they didn't give a shit and they wanted to do things by their own rules. And even with SST, which is a little more people think of hardcore.
Yeah.
That label had the Minutemen and it had the Meat Puppets, and they had, of course, Black Flag, but they also had China White, and it was a really crazy range of bands.
Yeah, and you had Slash Records, which was another big one, and
that was the
Enigma.
That had the Germs. The Slash had the Germs and Us and the Blasters and Los Lobos, and then it went on, with this spin-off. Ruby Records had Gun Club and the Flesh Eaters and Green on Red and even the Misfits and all kinds of crazy shit.
So I want to ask you about a couple movies because I was digging through my garage and I found this, which I'll have to explain. I don't know how well you can read it.
Oh yeah, I can see it.
But it was the telephone pole poster for the Erga Music War.
That's awesome.
Concert. And one night was Cramps, X, Dead Kennedys, and Chelsea. Second night was Magazine, Para Ubu, Human League, The Members, and Wall of Voodoo. So between this and the decline of Western civilization, it seemed like that not only helped put you guys on the map, but put you on the map for the rest of the world to see.
That's kind of making the assumption that those movies got distribution. Although in this second book, the Under the More Fun in the New World, Bill Morgan, who did the Unheard Music movie, tells a story about meeting Kurt Cobain years later because they couldn't figure out when they released the Unheard Music why it was being held over in Seattle, because they only had about 6 copies of the movie, and they'd have to, play it in Boston, and then they'd, it'd play for a week, and then they'd have to send it to DC, and then they'd go from DC to Chicago and whatever. But it kept getting held over because in Seattle, and Kurt Cobain said that he and a bunch of his friends and went to see this midnight showing in like 87, 88, and it just kept getting held over. So it did have some effect, but not in the world. I mean, I think we put ourselves, any of those bands put themselves on the map by just getting to people, getting, grassroots, playing shows, people saying, oh, those guys don't suck, or, oh, those guys were really great, or did you see what Lux Interior did? It blew my mind,
Yeah.
It was just, I think a lot of it was hard work, but that's a pretty nice, pretty great lineup. Yeah, I go see that.
Amazing.
I think when that happened, somebody threw a Converse tennis shoe on stage when the Cramps were playing, which would happen from time to time. and Lux took the tennis shoe, poured some beer into it, and then drank the beer out of the stinky black Converse.
See, if Prince only did that at the Rolling Stones show at the Coliseum, he wouldn't have been booed off.
Yeah, I think he would have been. But
let's go back to that. How did you guys, you must have had a lot of shit thrown at you when you guys were on stage, right? Not because of who you were, because it was just the thing to do.
Yeah.
And how do you guys like take your life into your own hands like that? And how do you have to keep your eye out, like dodging bottles and whatever else came at you?
Yeah, you keep your eyes open, man. Don't close your eyes. I mean, it wasn't so bad. We wouldn't put up with spitting. That was, people would spit. We would stop the show and say, okay, here's the deal. We'll play. You don't spit. If you spit, we don't play. It's one or the other. You got to make up your mind.
Good for you.
And also with fights too. If we saw, some bad fights going on, we would also stop. And because you got a lot of power up there, you got a big microphone and a big PA system to keep things under control.
Did you guys get into fights?
Oh, sure. I did.
While on stage or while watching somebody else?
Both. Yeah.
He's got the battle scars.
A moment I dove off stage and grabbed a guy around the head in Lincoln, Nebraska, because he kept annoying this. He threw a full drink onto Exene during the first song. And then I got down and pointed at him and said, listen, motherfucker, don't do that. I'm going to come and get you. And then he moved over to in front of me and was doing all this hippie, like hand motions for like 3 or 4 songs. And then he went away. And then I kept getting hit with ice or something was hitting me. And I looked out like, 10 feet back and there's this cowardly son of a bitch and he's throwing ice at me. And I just lost my shit. This is like 5 songs into the show. And I just threw the bass off and dove on, I grabbed him around the head and his head hit the floor and then went into my ribs, and I cracked 3 ribs. And we had to stay on tour for another like month or something like that. That's hard. We both got messed up. So you kids out there, don't fight.
Don't bruise your ribs on tour.
Especially if you sing.
Man.
Yeah. My God.
Singing with cracked ribs is no fun, let me tell you.
That's got to be tough. What cities around the world did you feel a real strong connection with that really resonated with X?
Oh, mostly big cities. Kind of your, what you would imagine. Boston and New York. I mean, it took a little while for New York. I think we really resonated in Italy. That was back in 82. But Italy and Southern California, they're kind of the same in the like Dolce Vita, and people know how to party and stuff.
The climate.
So for some reason, LA punk rock was more popular in Italy than elsewhere. But LA is our home, and San Francisco is now my home away from home, other home, and but really it's I don't know, it's just like whenever the magic happens, you don't know when it's going to be good. You don't know when that energy you put out and the audience gives it back and it all happens. You don't know. You're
from Baltimore originally, right?
Yes.
And how long were you living there? Grow up there, high school, all that kind of good stuff?
Oh, yeah. I moved there at the end of 2nd grade, so I was 7 or something like that, and I left when I was 23. So it was a good long while. Yeah, and kind of got my taste for bohemian lifestyle down in Baltimore City.
Yeah, because you seem to be a very well-read man. Was that something that you were drawn to as a kid, reading and...
No.
No, really?
although both my parents were librarians.
Oh wow.
Hated it, and I try not to let the fact that I've read some books get in my way.
Well, you've written some great songs about books and characters.
Well, I appreciate that. Thanks.
Yeah.
But it's true. You can't let like academic stuff get in your way of just what's intuitive and what feels right. But yeah, my parents would bring home big stacks of books, like, here's your summer reading. They would just sit there. They would collect dust because I was busy. I want to go out and do shit, I don't want to read. But then, I would give a high school English teacher some credit for that. I think it was 11th grade or 12th grade. Maybe I had him for both, but he was good, Mr. Gowdy. And he introduced us to Camus and, The Stranger and The Plague and some dark books like that. Yeah.
In your book, Under the Big Black Sun, you have a great story I was just going to lead you up to it because I was hoping you could tell it, but it was about, I think you were living with Billy and you get the cops pull you over?
Well, I wasn't living with Billy. we were rehearsing at his house. And this was down in Hancock Park, like 6th and Van Ness. And he and his girlfriend lived in an old Victorian house that was kind of run down, looked like the Munsters house. And I was leaving, and I had a really conspicuous car. It was a bright yellow International Travelall, which was not a custom color, but it was from Baltimore, so it had a lot of rust on it. I'm not sure if I had California tags yet or not, but I was leaving rehearsal from Billy's house. I was on Wilshire and Crenshaw, which is not a great neighborhood. Even then, it was not great. And they pulled me over, and there was a bass guitar in the back seat. And they said, "What are you doing?" And I mean, I have a healthy respect for cops, and everybody said, "LAPD, don't mess with them." And I took that seriously. And I said, "Well, I'm just, sir, yes, sir, I'm leaving band rehearsal, sir." And he goes, "Well, what kind of music do you play?" I said, like 50s music, because Billy and I were just feeling each other out. Like, do we like playing with each other? Do we like hanging out and stuff like that? Billy did a version of Bebop-A-Lula, and I did a version of Honey Don't, and we did that Sam Cooke song, Bringing It On Home. And so I said, well, songs like Bebop-A-Lula and stuff like that. He goes, "Come over here, get out of the car." And he had me walk over to his patrol car and sing Bebop-A-Lula over his loudspeaker, over the PA system. And I thought, what's next? Are they going to, take your pants off?
Bark like a dog.
Yeah. So luckily they were, then I kind of looked over and I could see that they were just like laughing their asses off because they're saying, "Dance, monkey." And I was dancing, and then they said, "Okay, go on, get out of here." And it's like, oh, Jesus.
Well, it could have been worse, right?
Yeah.
Could have been way worse. I could have been black, and they probably would have just shot me.
So another Patreon question Amy has for you, and back to Under the Big Black Sun. You have a nice thank you to Viggo Mortensen, and she wanted to know what's that all about.
Well, Viggo Mortensen and Exene were married for a while, maybe 5 years. They have a son together who did a video for us. And Viggo's a dear friend of mine. I wish I got to see him more, but he lives in Spain now, so
okay,
that's the way that goes.
Okay.
Let's go back to a little bit more of the album. But one song that just really struck me, and I know I'm going to be playing at New Year's Eve, Good Year, Goodbye. You just finished that, in February or something like that of this year?
No, maybe, we recorded it along with the rest of them. I probably wrote it November, December of 2019, but it was meant to be, try to talk about that feeling of wrapping up a year, not thinking that it was going to be wrapping up an era. Just like, so, it's like there's so much good and there's so much bad that can happen almost simultaneously or right next to each other. Someone very near and dear to me passed away. It was my sister-in-law, but I know that there's people that are falling in love, and so that's where that comes from. And for my birthday, an early birthday gift, Exene gave me a copy of Midnight Cowboy, the John Voight, Dustin Hoffman, but it was the book. And there's a scene in that book where these two arty types, and it's also in the movie, where these two arty types are throwing this kind of Andy Warhol party. And they're obviously a couple, but they're pretending to be brother and sister. So that's where that came from. And, just grabbing things here and there. Exene wrote some of the chorus, Sing Us Out with the Song. And, I like that song too.
Yeah.
It actually gives me hope because, I'm hoping that there's going to be a kind of fun New Year's somewhere down the line. It's going to be getting back together, big party.
Yeah, it's going to be
one big party.
You also redid Cyrano de Bergerac's Back.
Yes.
You had that on earlier album, How We Are. I love the arrangement on this one. I really loved it. I mean, it's like with the saxophone and stuff. I mean, it just really resonated with me. It's good.
Thanks again. You guys are too kind. I hope I'm not going to get punked at the end of this.
No.
Say,
I mean, it's a really strong album.
That was all lies.
A really strong album.
Was more like that was more like that version of Cyrano was more like the original thing, which we put on the anthology. It was kind of a demo rehearsal tape. And Billy always really liked the kind of R&B feel to it, which is something that I like too. And we thought, okay, well, let's give it a shot. And it turned out pretty good because it also has some kind of harder rock kind of guitar and the chorus. And that's fun. And Exene liked the literary aspect to it.
Of course.
So what the hell? And then Billy gets to play sax, and then it's like, okay, cool.
Yeah. No, it's great. The album's really strong, so congratulations on that. Where can people find the album nowadays?
Fat Possum. You can order an LP, vinyl, or a CD, and you can have it and hold it, and look at the beautiful artwork made by Wayne White, also an LA resident.
He worked on Pee-wee's Playhouse, didn't he?
He did. Yeah, and he's a really well-known artist. And once we settled on the title Alphabetland, Exene has one of his paintings that she got about 10 years ago, and I just immediately thought of his art because he has these old-fashioned sort of thrift store landscapes and funny woodsy scenes, and then he'll paint like Cheap Bastard on them, or cluster fuck, or something, just completely opposite to the thing. But you can get a Fat Possum Records. It's on streaming services, and I have a love-hate relationship with Pandora and Spotify because they don't pay right. But that's the way it goes. That's the new thing, and you could just get it at your local indie record store. You can order it through them, and they can, stick around and be a community building place for your little town or your big community or your whatever. Or you can just listen to the radio, and great stations like yours will be playing.
Like the one we used to be at.
It's like radio. Don't even get me started, man.
Well, or podcasts.
Yeah, podcasts.
Thank you.
Yeah, podcasts.
We just have what we call bonus round questions.
Bonus round.
Yeah.
Is this a lightning round?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now
Okay,
you're
great.
catching on.
I'm ready.
There could be a prize, but there's not. You can have bragging rights if you want.
Okay.
What was the very first concert you went to?
The Rolling Stones in 1967.
Where at?
At the Baltimore Civic Center, and the whole show lasted about 25 minutes because people ran on stage and they had no security, so it was just Baltimore PD picking people up and throwing them off stage.
Wow.
Gee.
I think I was 14 or 15 years old.
Wow. Who would you want to meet that you've never met?
Oh, I guess it has to be alive.
No.
Not dead.
That's the beauty of this game. There's no rules.
Oh, well.
You can make it up. You can make up the person for all we care.
No. Oh, God. Well, that's too hard. That's too hard. I can't even think of anybody alive that. Oh, God.
We got other questions.
Yeah, I'll come back to that.
Okay. If you were making a documentary film, what rock subject would it be on?
It would be on punk rock, and it would be on LA punk rock, and that may happen.
Ooh,
really?
Awesome.
Yes.
You want to expand?
We're trying to we already shopped it around to your. This is not a lightning round. Go for it.
Okay.
Next question.
Who was the biggest influence in your life? Not necessarily your career, but your life.
My mom.
Okay.
I love you, Mom.
Aww.
When did you discover rock and roll?
When I heard Leadbelly and found out that he was put in jail for murder.
Wow. Okay. What band do you regret never seeing live?
Oh, I regret never seeing the Sonics live. I regret never seeing the MC5 live. Yeah, those two.
What is your coolest piece of tour memorabilia?
Oh, my 1960 jazz bass.
Ooh.
By Fender.
Yeah.
Okay. And the last one we have, which could be answered by so many ways that you could have already answered it, but do you have a special Spinal Tap moment? Something so crazy and outrageous that happened on tour or while you guys were recording, anything like that?
Oh, absolutely. We lived through the in-store where nobody showed up.
Tell me that wasn't Tower Records on Sunset.
No. It was somewhere in like Cincinnati in 1980 or 81. And then there was also the Spinal Tap moment where we showed up to the record store, again, probably in the Midwest. and probably for Wild Gift. And there were, I don't know, 20, maybe 40 people there, and there were no records.
Oh my God.
So you had nothing to sign or
There
sell.
was nothing to sign. There was nothing to sell. And that's why when Elektra said, "Hey, you want to be on a major label?" we said, "Oh, please, yes, thank you."
Good
Wow.
old Elektra Records.
Well, congratulations.
I have one more
Who do
question.
I wish that I could meet Gerard Depardieu,
Gerard Depardieu.
Okay.
the actor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an interesting choice.
Or Lena Wertmüller.
Don't know that.
She's a film director.
Okay.
Oh, German film. Yeah, I think right.
Yeah.
What would you say to your 18-year-old self going back now?
I'd say it's going to be okay. Get out of your own head and learn the definition of what an ego is. I've just recently, maybe in the last couple of years, truly figured out what that is and how it can work against you. Still working on it.
Aren't we all?
Yeah. Still got time. You got plenty of time now, right?
As a matter of fact, some people are not working on it, and those are the people that should
Yes.
work on it the most.
Well, we're staying away from the politics, remember?
No, let's go there.
Yeah.
Let's go there.
No.
All right, John
So
Doe.
fun.
Well, thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Rita and CW, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Good luck with the
Love
album.
it. Yeah. Same with your podcast. I'm going to check out the previous episodes.
Great.
Cool. And can't wait to see you guys live because this material needs to be played live.
Absolutely.
You and me both.
Yeah.
Excellent, man.
You and
We'll
me
catch
both.
you on the next tour.
Thank you
All
again
right,
so
man.
much.
Talk
All
to
right.
you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
All righty.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Special thanks to John Doe for talking to us from his home in Austin, Texas. You can follow John on Twitter at John Doe from X or X the Band Official, or on Facebook, X the Band.
Don't forget, X's new album is Alphabetland. It's available digitally at bandcamp.com. He mentions that, and I believe one reason he mentions it because I think the band gets more money than if you download it from Amazon or iTunes. Or you can get special vinyl copies, which are available at your local independent record stores.
And we talk about that a lot, so don't forget your local independent stores during this
They
time.
need help.
Check out our show notes under each show title on our website, rockandrollconfessional.rocks. There you'll find links to videos and other subjects that might have been brought up in today's show.
And a big special thanks to Jay Zudan.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you, Jay, for hooking us up with the band. Mike Rouse with X's management, and Melissa Dragic Cordero with X's publicity for coordinating the interview. We thank you all, the three of you and everyone else, for helping put this together.
We have some really great shows coming up in the future.
And please check out our website, rockandrollconfessional.rocks. Like us, share us, follow us on Facebook. And yes, we still need your help. So please share our posts and follow us on Facebook and pass it on to all your loved ones and rock friends and everyone else that loves rock and roll. And who else?
Keep rocking.
Keep on rocking.
Keep on rocking.
You want to sing that one?
Stay safe
Okay.
and stay virus-free.
Okay.
I know everybody thinks it's okay now to go out and go crazy. Not so much in this state, but if you're living in another state where they're just kind of like,
Going out and going crazy?
yeah, just be careful. Be an adult.
Yeah. Be responsible for the others, too.
Yeah. And what were we talking about masks the other day? It's just like, like you said, you wear a mask, not so much
Always
for you.
Protect yourself, but maybe to protect others.
the person next to you.
Yeah.
All
Good.
right.
Peace out, everybody.
Thank you.